Hi there. Welcome back to episode 2 of your live sound crash course with me, Jackson Vanderpoel. In our last episode, episode 1, we looked at different types of microphones and connections and dived deeper into how those different microphones are used and what makes them tick. In this episode, we'll be applying that into miking up a drum kit, like this one right behind me. We'll only be looking at the 3 basics that you will need if you're miking up a kit for live sound, that being a kick, a snare, and an overhead. Today's learning intention is to understand how different microphones are used and how they can be applied to a drum kit or other acoustic instruments. To be successful in this lesson, you should be able to intentionally and purposely pick microphones and placement on a drum kit to mic it up for either live sound or studio recording. So let's jump straight into it. So what I have in my hand here is the kick mic we'll be using. So this one is good for bass frequencies, and that's why we've picked up the kick. So out of the options on screen, what type of microphone is this? That's right, large diaphragm. So it's a bigger actual microphone capsule, which allows it to better record lower frequencies like the kick. So when I'm setting up this microphone with this stand, I'm using a washer, like the one I poorly showed there, to adapt the thread inside the microphone to the thread on the stand. Now what I ideally aim for when putting a kick mic in is to not have it be too far away from the actual stand itself, so it's not generating too much weight and too much force. So I oftentimes like to have mine upside down, facing up towards the beater inside, and right up against the body like so. So what I've done here, I've put the actual leg right under the actual microphone body itself, so it's supporting all of its weight without being too far. Just to better illustrate my point, here you can see the microphone is facing where the beater hits, so you get that direct sound. However, you can experiment on your own for different sounds. Next up, for the snare, we'll be using the Shure SM57, very famous microphone. Now, out of the options on screen, what does this symbol here mean in terms of polar patterns? That's right, that means it's a cardioid. So it takes a lot of noise in from the front and rejects from the back. So it's very good, especially near cymbals, for ejecting any backwards noise. So when setting up your microphone, you want it to be at the right height where it's facing the snare and facing away from the hi-hat so it can reject that sound while still picking up the snare. So here I'm experimenting with height. I go a little bit too far, but bring it down just so that it's all nice and balanced. Now, just to further illustrate that point, you can see it's facing right to the center where the stick actually hits. I've put it at this angle, however, you can experiment depending on what kind of sound you want, what part of the drum you want to capture. When it comes to setting up your overheads, you're probably going to have to put out quite a lot of length on your mic stand, which will generate a lot of weight and a moment of force. So make sure it's nice and tight like I've just done there. And here you can see I'm attaching my Zoom H5, which I'll be using as my stereo overheads. Should I be spinning it like this when I paid a lot of money for it? Probably not, but who cares? So I've used the Zoom H5 because it has a stereo mic on board, which allows me to get left and right of the drum kit, specifically those cymbals. So having that left and right, I find allows it a lot easier to understand. Now, there's a line input on the Zoom H5 for that, and that gets chucked straight into the mixing board, which has 2 line inputs on some of the channels here for your left and right. And that follows the same channel strip that we'll discuss in just a second. So with plugging in the line, just put 1 into your left, 1 into your right. They will be mixed together as one track. Now here, once we've actually set up all of our microphones, we will now begin the process of making sure our signals are all clear and not peaking. So to check we're getting a clear signal, right, from our input here, most microphones, once they're running through the strip and we've adjusted the gain accordingly, will start to show a signal over on the right here. So I'm using this microphone as an example, but over here, it should show our levels. Now you can see it's quite low right now, but when in this video I'm kind of yelling into it, I'm adjusting accordingly so that it's not peaking. So that peaking, right, that level there, that's good. But if it starts going the orange or red, it has started to peak. Like that. Yeah. So that red is not what we want. We want to make sure we have a nice clear signal. Here on the mixing board, you can actually see it also gives you an indicator down here to make sure that you know at all points. So once you're making sure your levels aren't peaking, it'll be running through the channel strip, and you may be wondering what all of these are. These are your effects and your EQ, which can change how the sound comes through. Now, we won't be worrying about any of this until episode 3, so next lesson. So do not worry about these for now. This is something that is a future problem. Just make sure your gain is appropriate. All right. So after all this, hopefully you should be able to see how you are to mic up your kit, both the kick, snare, and overheads. Now you can mic up as many as you want. It really comes down to how willing you are to spend time mixing and how many microphones you have available. Now in my case, I just did the basic 3 that most people are going to need. So let's have a hear how it sounds. Thank you for watching episode 2 of the live sound crash course with me, Jackson Vanderpoel. Next episode, we'll be putting this all together with guitars and vocals and looking at how to mix appropriate for live sound. Special thanks for Soundbox for letting me use their studio for this video.